Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. I know it's not Halloween. Alright, that's long past. But when it came to my Halloween videos, I ran out of time and I couldn't upload everything I wanted to. So that's why I'm uploading them past Halloween. But if you stop and look at it like this, at some point in time, it's gonna be Halloween time again, October. So somebody eventually will stumble upon my videos and watch it around Halloween time. So yeah, and I'm here today to talk to you about I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 2025 movie, not the 1997 movie. Why? Why couldn't they just name this something different? I hate when they do requels like this. Like Scream 5 is called Scream. The new Halloween movie that came out a while back is just called Halloween. I hate when they do this crap. Same thing with Superman. It was Superman Legacy. Now it's just Superman. It is so confusing, and I hate when they do that crap. Anyway, this movie sucks. I'm not even joking. This movie sucks. I had fears when I found out the director / co-writer wrote Thor: Love and Thunder. I had my fears when they say social media is going to influence this movie. But I'm all like, maybe, just maybe they can pull something out their butts and make a good movie. They did not. I also feared when I heard that like Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt was going to have a role very similar to Neve Campbell's Sydney in Scream 5. Because, you know, it's like a legacy character. It's a requel and everything. And I'm like, crap. I don't want to see that crap. That's one reason why I hate Scream 5 is because of Neve Campbell's reduced role. She didn't do nothing in that movie. So I've been having my fears, but I've been anticipating this movie. Why? Because I love the first movie. I love the second movie. I hate the third movie, and I despise the television show. However, I now owe the people who made the television show and an apology, somewhat. Yes, the television show still sucks, and I stand by everything I said in my reviews of it. However, before watching this movie, I decided about a month ago to rewatch the television show to see if I judged it too harshly. No, I did not. It still sucks, but like it has its moments. There's better drama in the television show. There's better like acting in the television show. And you get a sense that these people are kind of like love interests or friends or whatever in the television show. Now, I've said before, if they just would have added the slasher to the television show, a person with a slicker in the hook, it would have been a heck of a lot better. But it would not fix the cringy dialogue of the television show and stuff like that. But and also, if they didn't want to do the slasher thing, just make it into a teen drama romance with a jilted lover type thing, and it would have worked a heck of a lot better. And call it something different other than I Know What You Did Last Summer. With that said, I've noticed something. This new movie, yes, it is a requel of the first movie, retconning the third and not establishing the television show whatsoever. However, it seems to be a remake of the television show, and they just added a slasher and everything. Because there are a lot of themes that happen in that television show that happen here. It's like they saw the mistakes because Neil H. Moritz, or whatever his name is, he produced the television show and these movies. They saw the mistakes of like the television show, and so they tried to fix it in this like movie, but they did a terrible job of fixing it. Just adding a slasher wasn't enough. This movie still has cringy dialogue. They're still trying to appeal to Gen Z and millennials and everything. Stop doing that crap. All right. First of all, Millennials and Gen Z people are more interested in newer slasher movies like Happy Death Day and stuff like that. Yeah, they will check out the older ones, but they're more interested in the new stuff. Second of all, stop trying to talk like them. In the very first I Know What You Did Last Summer movie, they didn't use no slang. They didn't try to talk like a teenager of that time, nothing like that. And this is where this movie went wrong. The character of Danica is so cringe. She's on par with Margot from the television show, but Margot was a million times worse. They try to be too relatable to these young people, but they don't know how to talk like young people because they old. And stuff. And so, like, but yeah, and then not only that, but how in the world is the television show managed to have full blown nudity and a sex scene, multiple ones at that? But the movie doesn't have any of that. It's just two people laying in bed, kissing, making out, and about to attempt to do it, but get chicken out. Seriously, the whole choking thing. Well, what was that about? But it's weird how the television show went hardcore with the nudity and the sex, but the movie played it PG, and the movie was rated R. At least I think it was. I'm not really 100% sure. I didn't look at the rating and everything. And so, like, but there's also, like, there are callbacks to the first movie, but then there are also callbacks to the television show. Like, the two main girls are supposed love interests, potentially. Like, you don't know if they are or not. Are they? Aren't they? You know what I'm saying? Like, just how the first movie was, that one line of dialogue in the first movie made people assume, wait, are Helen and Julie more than just friends? Like, but it was never explained. Now in the television show, yeah, they were like, lovers and stuff like that, and love interests and stuff. But I noticed, like, this movie takes a lot of tropes from newer slasher movies. Tropes such as somebody has to have like a like some type of like murder podcast. It was in the Chucky television show. It was in the Scream television show. I don't think it was in like the I Know What You Did Last Summer television show, but there was social media in that. Then also Totally Killer had a podcast as well. That seems to be the norm now in slasher movies. Also, the norm is having the main final girl be a blonde and everything. And not only that, but also the main final girl and her best friend have some type of romantic like love thing going on. And if it's not the final girls, then it's the final guys and everything. Like in Chucky, it was the two guys, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, it was the females. And in the Screen television show, like the best friend had romantic interest to that of like the final girl. And there's also just way, way, way more drama. They don't get to the point. And this movie feels more like a television show episode than it does that of a movie. Now, I tried my extreme best to not get spoiled with this movie. But of course, the moment you go on Twitter or YouTube, you're automatically spoiled. Somebody spoiled two cameos in this movie. And then there is that god-awful twist ending. I didn't know exactly what the twist ending was about, but I was able to piece it together and stuff like that. First of all, there are two killers in this movie and not one. This don't make no sense because the killer wrote something on like a window shower type thing in the sauna, and then all of a sudden both killers are in the next scene far, far away, and it's like, how did they get there so fast? How much time actually passed? Because there is an alternate ending. And so it makes me now wonder what the heck that alternate ending was about. Was this twist killer not really supposed to be the killer? Who really knows, you know what I'm saying? But apparently test audience didn't like one or both of the twist endings and stuff. Anyways, so like I was able to piece that together when they're talking about this twist ending ruined the movie worse than what it was. I'm all like, okay, it can only mean one thing. One of the returning characters from the first two movies is the new killer. Then somebody started posting pictures talking about twist ending, and they had the picture of who was the killer. I'm all like, you SOB, you. Why are you gonna spoil that on YouTube? Then on social media, one of those news outlets said somebody did a phenomenal job acting and blah, 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 blah. And so as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, this person is barely in the movie. So what is so phenomenal about the acting? I'm like, ah, crap. Must be a killer reveal. And it was. So I was able to piece together who the two killers were before I went to this movie and everything, because the freaking internet spoiled it. But, you know, I had to piece it together and everything. So I'm all like, I might as well just go and see this movie and see what's so good or bad about it. Why do I say that? Because I also had the fear this movie was going to suck, because the moment it came out, all over Twitter, people are talking about this is an amazing movie. It's great. It's the best in the franchise. And this is how you do a legacy movie. And it surpasses that of Scream 5. I knew with all that hype, they was lying out their butts. I knew they was lying out there. But when you hype something up that much, you are either a bot, or you are paid to say that, or you know somebody who's in the movie, or you're like trying to hype it up because you're a fan of somebody in the freaking movie. I knew they was lying and everything. Like, you don't hype things up that much. You just don't. Then all of a sudden, the stars started to chime in and say some BS type stuff. Madeline Clean, she came out, I think like a day before the movie came out, and she made a half-ass type stupid statement saying that I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 1997 movie, walked so that Scream could run. First of all, she's only 27 years old. She wasn't even alive when Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer came out. Second, she's only saying that because she's in this movie. She's only saying that because she is one of two final girls. She is also saying that because, like, she just don't know what the world she's talking about. Now, here's the scoop about I Know What You Did Last Summer and Scream. Kevin Williamson, he is the one who wrote both movies. He wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer first, but nobody wanted to pick it up. As much as I love the first one, it is a boring movie. It's mostly just a mystery movie and some drama, because it takes way too long to get to the kills. After Johnny Galecki character Max dies early on in the movie, you don't wait. You have to wait all the way to the very end just for everybody else to start dying and everything, because it's just a dialogue heavy mystery movie. And so it was boring, like the script was and everything. So nobody wanted to pick it up. So then he went and wrote Scream, learning from the mistakes that he made with I Know What You Did Last Summer. And if you ever know anything about Scream, then you know that he literally went to the town that the murders were based off of and watched the news feeds and lived in the hotel and wrote the script out and everything in a very methodical kind of way. And when Scream came out, it revolutionized how movies were made in that era. More slasher movies came out, more teen movies came out, more teen comedy, more teen romance. Scream revolutionized everything. Not I Know What You Did Last Summer, because I Know What You Did Last Summer came out after Scream, once they saw Kevin Williamson's script from Scream and saw how good it was in the movie theaters and stuff. So she does not know what the heck she is talking about. She's 27 years old. She used to date Pete Davidson, so you know she's crazy in the head. And it's just like, girl, chill out. All right, just chill out. You don't know what you're talking about. Just chill out. You're 27 years old. Freddie Prinze Jr. came out and like made a stupid statement saying that Julie and Ray are the ultimate final girl and final guy. First of all, look, Freddie, I like you and everything, but please shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. This is both of y'all's third time doing this movie's franchise in a 4-movie franchise. Okay, Neve Campbell has been in 6 Scream movies, okay? She is the ultimate final girl. She is the only one who is still alive and has not got killed off yet and fights her way through, like, you know, the slashers and stuff. Laurie Strode has not, because Jamie Lee Curtis keeps flaking out on the Halloween movies, and then they got retconned 3 times, and her character died twice in the retcons. So she is not the ultimate final girl. In my opinion, Sidney Prescott is, you know. And also, you want to go even further, Dewey is like one of the ultimate final guys and everything. He lived through 4 movies and died in the 5th. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Like, look, man, I know you've been through a lot when it came to the Scooby-Doo movies, and I know what you did last summer. They disrespected you in Scooby-Doo, and the director really disrespected you. And I know what you did last summer, making fun of your voice and everything like that. And his voice has changed. Now, they said that social media was going to have a big influence on this movie, but it did not. There's no social media whatsoever. There's no YouTube page, there's no Twitter, there's no Threads, there's no Facebook or Instagram. So what the world are they talking about other than that murder podcast? And I don't really, sorry, camera died. And so I don't really consider that social media. I mean, the television show I know what you did last summer had more of a social media influence because of that of Margot always on Instagram talking to her followers and mob banging on YouTube and everything. And so, what is it I was gonna say next? Oh, so I don't know what they're talking about when they say social media. Plus, look at Megan 2.0. They got ruined because of TikTok, and look what happened with that. Now, before this movie even came out, there's some slight controversy that's been going around, and it's quite sad and everything, and quite suspicious as well. In fact, more people are talking about that than they are talking about the movie, but they're also talking about that stupid twist ending and everything with the whole killer reveal. Now, the controversy that surrounds this movie is like, here's the thing, right? Okay, so these are the 2 people who co-wrote the movie, and one of them directed it, right? And so I'm trying to think of their names. Leah McCormick. She did this the story by, and she co-wrote the movie. So story by, I don't know how much of an influence they have on like the movie, but the story was by her and also the director. Now the movie was co-wrote also by her and also Jennifer Caitlin Robinson, who's on the right, and also co-written by Sam Lusky. And so like the one on the right is the one who co-wrote and directed it and did Thor, Love and Thunder. Both of these 2, look, I have faith in y'all. Both of them said they are fans of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Leah is friends with Sarah Michelle Gellar and tried to get Sarah to come back and retcon her death, but Sarah was not having it because she said it would be meaningless and everything. But she did do a hallucination dream sequence that made absolutely no sense. I'll get to that later on in the movie. But Leah is supposed to be a fan of the original and said she was going to do good by it. When I looked at both of these 2, I'm all like, wow, they're writers and like directors. They look more like models and everything. And I'm all like, that's cool. They averted people's expectation of the way they look. Not trying to be mean, but maybe y'all should just be models and everything. Because both of those 2 don't have that many combined credits to their name. Leah has only written like 3 things, but she's actually had small roles in other stuff. And as for Jennifer, she's had a couple of like directing and writing credits. At the most, they probably have 8 combined like credits in Hollywood. That's not enough for a legacy movie. Why would you go with 2 people who are technically rookies and everything? And the worst part about this is like I was rooting for them. There are 2 women in Hollywood trying to make movies and stuff because Hollywood is a very male driven thing. But now, when you look at the failure of this movie, it's just gonna make people say, well, they should have just stuck with men because these women have no idea what they're doing. And I hate when people say that crap. They're gonna say, oh, they went with 2 woke like writers and everything, and look what happened to the movie. Because yes, there is messaging technically in the movie. One is outspoken about a feminist take, which Leah is used to writing feminist stuff, and the other one is an allegory for a toxic white male. But you have to really pay attention as to what the world he's talking about, because he doesn't just come out and say the typical modern holiday stuff of, oh, if I was male, I would be canceled. No, he don't say that. There's an allegory to it, like a Star Trek allegory. And so because there is messaging out there, you're gonna have somebody be all like, this is woke, this is woke. Oh, look, 2 women wrote this. This is woke. And so when you are trying to fight against the system, when you're trying to fight against the man and everything, you need to make sure you put your best foot forward. You need to make sure you have 2 competent writers and directors, and you need to make sure you can put out a banger, because if you don't, there's gonna be somebody screaming DEI or woke or something like that. And I just don't get it. Like, you gotta put your best foot forward and everything. You gotta make sure it is a banger, and this movie is not. The writing and the direction of this movie is very, very cringe, bland, and slightly mediocre and everything. Now, I will say, yes, they said this is going to be the most brutal and gore of all the I Know What You Did Last Summers. This is true into regards of I Know What You did last summer. Because the thing about the first movie and even the second, the kills were never that impressive, and you barely saw blood. Here it's more gruesome, it's more bloody and stuff like that. But it does not compare to what we see in Scream, and it doesn't even compare to what I saw in a TV show called Slasher that lasted for 5 seasons. That is how you do gore. And that's a freaking broadcast television show in Canada, of all things. So they should have tried harder, or they should have been replaced or something. Now, that's not where the controversy ends either. Jennifer Love Hewitt has been body shamed ever since she was on the red carpet premiere. Jennifer Love Hewitt said she was hesitant on returning because she wanted to make sure her character came back in a right way that made sense. But she's now revealed, because so many people have been making fun of her body and so many people have been defending her online. In fact, that's all you see on social media. You don't see them talking about the movie. You see them defending Jennifer Love Hewitt. And defend they have. I have defended her as well. And, she said she was hesitant on doing this movie because she's older now. She's not 18. She's gained some weight, and she was afraid people was going to make fun of her body, similar to what happened when she was in that bikini picture. If you don't know what happened, basically it's like this. Jennifer Love Hewitt has always been skinny, but she's always had big boobs and a big butt. But then after in the 2000s, she started to gain just a tiny bit of weight and everything here and there. And she's also had kids. In the bikini picture, she gained just a slight bit of weight that gave her bigger thighs and stuff like that, and a bigger butt. And of course, the internet is going to be as nasty as possible and made fun of her. And when that happened, it really hurt her feelings to the point where she lost weight and lost some of her butt. I will not forgive y'all for that. You made her get rid of her booty. And so she said in an interview recently, she's never, ever, ever felt insecure about her body until those bikini pictures and people made fun of her. Now, if you know what she looks like now, of course, she is older. She's in her late 40s. She's gained some weight and she's had a couple of kids. And so, like, she doesn't look the way she did when she was 18, breaking out in the movie scenes and stuff like that. And so because of that, she was at the red carpet looking like this. And of course, people made fun of her. I mostly only saw one guy and one girl make fun of her, but apparently it's been a heck of a lot more. Her hips are bigger, her butt, thank God, has come back. And I love the way she looks. She looks amazing and everything. And people have the nerve to think something's wrong with the way she looks. That tells you this society only wants a toothpick looking person, a slim, razor thin person. And there are celebrities that I follow that I've noticed have lost so much weight they are skin and bones. And all you see in the comment section is, you look amazing, you're so sexy, this and that. They look like a skeleton. And that's the problem. People are brainwashing them to thinking they look amazing when they look anorexic and everything. There is nothing wrong with the way Jennifer Love Hewitt looks and stuff, but you can tell she has insecurity problem because just like most women in Hollywood, she feels her face and everything. Her face does look slightly different because one, she got older and she's using filler. And I hate when celebrities use filler, but sadly, this is the norm of Hollywood now. This is all you see. And I was watching a video on Hype Plus saying that it's mostly black people that's been defending her. Because, of course, us black folks, we love junk in the trunk. And we love people who have weight to them. And they said it's actually been a lot of white people who's been making fun of them. I don't know exactly who's been making fun of her. Like I said before, I only saw 2 people, and yes, they was right and everything. But this is so messed up. See, what she should have did was marry a black dude. If she would have got with a black dude, he would have been complimenting her body all the time. But I don't think she's ever dated a black dude. I remember years ago, back in the early 2000s, I was watching Hollywood News. They did a special on her love life. So many guys she dated, all of them white. See, if she would have had a black dude, she would have been complimented every day. But that's not where the controversy ends either. 2 people of color got completely cut from the movie. The director didn't really give a good explanation as to why they got cut. And so the people who got cut was Lola Tugg and Nicholas Alexander Chavez. One is Chinese, the other is Mexican. And when you watch this movie, you've noticed one thing. The entire cast, even the background characters, are white. Except for 2 people. One final girl who's Chinese, and one guy who you can't tell what race he is, but I searched online, he's half black. And so, like, everybody else is white. Now, of course, when you watch these movies, if you ever watched the first one, then you know for a fact that Southport, the place this movie is located at, is predominantly white. It's kind of like this old Fisher town and stuff like that. And there was only one black person in the first movie who was only there for like 20 seconds. And to add insult to injury, she drove Julie around back from her school to her home like a chauffeur. So in the second movie, they made sure they corrected this. They gave us 2 black leads and they gave us 3 additional black characters and everything. All of them died except for one, the Brandy character. And so they had to correct the mistake that they made like before. Also, I think they had an Italian woman to also. Then in the third one, the DVD one is back to white. But then in the television show, it was very diverse. You had an Asian woman, you had a mixed black girl, You had some Hawaiian background characters. You had some Asian folks, Latino and everything. They really tried to be diverse. So for this movie, they went back to white and everything. And so the director said that, it's a tough decision. Nobody wants to do this. We just had to cut them. They're amazing people. It's not them, and I want to work with them in the future. That's a PR statement. That's always been a PR statement. But she never said why it got cut. Was it for time? What was it? I suspect it had to do something with race because of the simple fact Hollywood has been slowly rolling back on DEI and wokeness and stuff because too many white dudes complain on YouTube, and it has affected the movie box office sales and everything. Disney is a main culprit of this because they've really been rolling back, especially when it comes to Pixar and stuff. And so, of course, now that the government has changed, it's mandatory to roll back on DEI and everything. So it's very highly suspicious that cause this movie originally had 2 Asian people, 1 Latina and 1 black. And it's kind of interesting that they only stuck with 1 black and 1 Asian. And I've said this before because I made a video on this like a year or 2 ago. When they did cast this movie and when they did cast the people of color, it was very whitewashed because the people of color were very light skinned and almost look white. The black dude in this movie, you can't even tell what race he is, and it's hard to tell he is actually black. No shade to him, but you just can't tell. You know what I'm saying? That's typical Hollywood for you. Now, Camila Mendez was supposed to be added to this movie. She's Latina, but she had to drop out to go film the He-Man movie. And so they found another actress that looked just like her, kinda. But the actress who looks kind of like her is Chinese and not Latina. I bet you anything they're like, nope, 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 nope. There's 4 people of color and we can't have that. Because when I say this movie is white, I mean this movie is white. Because the half black dude in this movie, his dad is white and is featured in the movie and has a line of dialogue. His mom, on the other hand, you can't tell what race she is. And she's only in the movie for like 5-10 seconds. And I think she barely says anything. And she doesn't show up no more after that. Ironic that they got rid of the mother of color but kept the white dad. And I told you this before, about 2 years ago. They always do this when it comes to mixed characters of black and like slasher TV shows or horror, this and that. They always show the white parent, but they don't never show the black parent that also made them. So I believe race had a reason to do with why these 2 people got pulled. Oh, and I still can't believe they had the Mexican girl try to look white in the movie with blonde hair. Do you see what I say when I said that they literally whitewashed this movie? And this actress, she literally said, growing up, there was nothing but blonde girls in school, and she got called some pretty awful stuff. Well, look at this. They made her blonde in the movie. And I forgot that she's even Latino because I said, remember how they like whitewashed the movie and stuff. So if they would have kept the original cast, they would have had like 2 Latinos and everything and 2 Asians and stuff. But they couldn't have that. Now, when watching this movie, one thing that confused me is I was like, why does Southport look so different? Southport literally hasn't been shown since like the first movie, really. And, well, kind of the second, but only like a cameo. So they filmed someplace else for the second. But in the first movie, it was like California and other places they filmed. For this movie, they filmed in Australia for some reason. And Australia and also New Zealand, who's next door to them, does not look like America. And so, but I noticed I'm all like, everything looks rich and fancy. Southport is very, very, very poor in everything. I'm all like, what the heck is going on? Well, to justify this, they said that the black character's dad is so rich, he redesigned the entire town. So now it looks like the most fancy smancy looking thing you can ever imagine. And it just doesn't have that same vibe and everything. Now, this movie does have callbacks to the first movie and everything. How the camera goes over like the ocean. When the car crash happens, the person who's about to die grabs something of one of the people, but it doesn't lead to nothing in this because the person doesn't go in the water to go get them. A gym scene, a sauna scene where it's like they're in the shower and you see a message written. But one thing that's odd, in the first movies, they kept saying, I know what you did last summer. It was always be written somewhere. Now this new person is always writing, it's not over yet. Or like, there's still more to come. Something like that. I'm like, well, just write, I know what you did last summer. That's what this movie is called. It's not called, it's not over yet. And stuff. So like, yeah, it's just kind of weird. Now, spoiler alert. Well, this whole thing is a spoiler. Brandy does come back. I'm very shocked and surprised, especially because her real life situation many years ago where she actually killed somebody in a car. But the way they set it up, they setting up a sequel. This don't make no sense, and I'll get into that a little bit later. And like I said before, Sarah Michelle Gellar does come back, but in a dream sequence. But the person who's having the dream don't make no sense. And so, with all that said, let's actually get into what this movie is about. So before I describe the movie and what goes on in it, there's one more controversial thing, and that is Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt, are they in a feud? This is the second time people have speculated if Sarah Michelle Gellar is in a feud just this year. First, it was Allison Heineken, who played Willow and Buffy. That's always been speculated for years. But then all of a sudden, they did an interview together saying, oh, feud? What feud? There's no feud. And people speculate they just said that because Willow might show up for the Buffy reboot. However, the dude who plays Spike, he has literally said there were times where it wasn't easy to be around Sarah and everything because she had the whole weight of the show on her shoulders and everything, and that was a lot of pressure, and there were just times that she was overly stressed out and it wasn't always pleasant to be around her. And plus, you know, back in the 90s, she was contracted to a television show. She couldn't do that many movies and stuff, and we all know she wanted to do movies. Because when Buffy got turned into a rat in that one episode, it's because she went off to go film I Know They Did Last Summer. However, there's been speculation over the years that her and Jennifer Love Hewitt could be in a feud. And both of them keep saying, no, that's not true. And personally, I don't believe them. Because of the simple fact, it's been revealed by one of them, those two have not spoken since the first movie in 1997. That's a long freaking time not to talk to somebody. And it's odd because Jennifer has starred in, you know, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer with Sarah's husband, Freddie Prinze Jr. So you would assume they might have like ran into each other or talked or something like that. But not to talk since 1997. That's weird. Plus, you have to stop and think about this whole like Ray and Julie thing. When you stop and think about it, Ray and Julie rarely ever have any screen time together. See, in the first movie, it made sense. They dated, but he was a spineless wimp. And this other guy was literally hitting on her, and he wasn't there to defend her. And then Barry wrapped his hands around her throat and threatened her and everything. And Ray just stood there and didn't do nothing. He basically was cowardly in the first on the first half of the movie, and so she broke up with him. That and because after they ran over what's his name with the car, and he persuaded her to go along with the lie. And throughout the whole movie, she was just mad with him because he just wanted to like pretend like, you know, y'all are just blowing us out of proportion. She's like, no, somebody is after us and everything. But then they got together at the end of the movie. And then in the second movie, they broke up again because she wanted to go on a vacation. He wanted to work, but he wanted to propose to her. But then in the second movie, they rarely have any screen time together. Then in this new movie, they're divorced. And not only are they divorced, but their two characters hate each other. But why? It's never explained why they're divorced. It's never explained why they hate each other. Because neither have moved on with nobody else. So it fuels that speculation that it might be a feud between like Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt. Pretty crazy. So the movie starts off with one of our main female characters, Ava, played by Chase Sui Wanders. And so like she's now home from college and stuff like that, and she's in her room and she starts getting like, you know, drugs so her and her friends can get drunk and high. I don't need to see nobody smoking weed in like I Know What You Did Last Summer. Seriously. I'm telling you, man, this movie is trying to be like the television show, because the television show had a person who like sold drugs and stuff like that. And so because of this, you can tell automatically she is our like Julie James type character, you know, home from college, the brown hair. She also looks like Camila Mendez and stuff. Like when they recast that role, they didn't just like, you know, try to get somebody just, you know, who could act. They got somebody who looks just like her. And so like she's going to her friends like, what is it, like engagement party and stuff like that. So Danica and Teddy are the ones that are like engaged and stuff, right? And Danica's a very like Helen Shivers type person. She's not very bright in the head. She's a bit of a valley girl. She's a little vapid, you know what I'm saying? Like she is technically the Helen, but she's also slightly the Julie James. And it's kind of weird because they kind of mesh those two characters together, but she's mostly like a Helen. Her boyfriend is kind of supposed to be the Barry character, but he's not mean. He's just a stupid jock, and I mean a stupid jock and everything. And so, you know, they're talking with Ava and her boyfriend Milo and stuff, and then they see that of Stevie, played by Sarah Pigeon. And so, you know, we find out that they haven't spoken to Stevie in like a whole year, because apparently something went down last year in the summer and it just caused them to drift apart. And so this makes you assume automatically that like the events of the car crash happened off screen and we'll be getting like flashbacks and stuff like that. But no, they convince her to go with them and everything. And this is when the car crash thing starts to happen. If you wanted to be original, but also keep to this similar to like the original, then they should have had the car crash happen a year prior, and then we get to see the characters living with the guilt and everything like that. Like make it different, and they didn't do that. This was lazy writing and stuff. So they're in the car and it's a group of 5 and not a group of 4, which once again, they are taking cues from the television show. The television show is a group of 5. And 5 is too big of a number for me. It needed to be 4, because in the original, it was like a pairing of 2. But then, you know, you'll have Ray off screen doing his own thing, because in the first movie, they tried to give you the red herring that Ray could be like the killer. So it was mostly just like, you know, Helen and Julie investigating the whole thing while Barry's just doing his own thing and stuff. So it's a group of 5, just like the television show. And as they're driving, you see Teddy acting stupid. And why? Oh my God. Why? And I got a problem with him being so stupid. And it's mostly just because of his race and everything. Like, why they had to make the only black person in the movie stupid? And then his girlfriend is just dumb and everything. It's like, could that not be more cliche of old Hollywood? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, he's trying to scare her like there's somebody in the middle of the road and she's about to run over them, but there's not. So I do like that little fake out. That was fun. But then they decide to get out the car because she's a little nervous now, and Teddy is acting a fool out in the middle of the road. He's drunk, he's dancing, he's in the middle of the road just acting stupid while they're in a dangerous spot. And they're in the spot that, you know, where the accident happened over 30 years ago from the first movie. And so he almost gets hit by like a car one time, and his friend Milo had to like push him out the way. I'm just kind of like, why? Why'd you have to make the black guy an idiot? He's really the only idiot in the entire movie and stuff, and he just acts stupid and everything. And I mean, he acts stupid. Him acting stupid in the middle of the road and almost getting hit by a car is what causes the accident of the other driver and stuff. So it wasn't them who hit somebody. It's the car swerved out the way not to hit him, and then bam, the car is teetering off like the embankment and everything, off the side of a cliff. And I'm just kind of like, once again, why did he have to be the dumb one for it? He's the only black person in this movie, really. I was afraid of this, about Hollywood going back to like the norm. See, I knew once like diversity and wokeness and stuff would start to leave Hollywood, it would go back to being predominantly white, and you'll have that like one black person or that one Asian or that one Latina, and of course the black person is going to be a stupid stereotype. And he's not like a ghetto person or like a loud person, he's just a dumb black guy. And I was afraid of that, and bam, my prediction was right and everything. And let's not forget about Sony in that scandal that happened a long time ago with like black folks and stuff. That whole email scandal they had, and why that lady got demoted. And then all of a sudden she helped produce like, you know, the Into the Spider-Verse movies because they had to do cleanup and everything. And who stars in the Into the Spider-Verse? Afro-Latino, because they had to do damage control. And so like, don't think Sony is innocent. And like I said before, I was afraid this was going to happen. They're going to go back to this whole stereotype of having like the dumb people of color and the predominantly white person. Because who did he have to be saved by? Milo and everything. But anyways, they actually try to save the person teetering off like, you know, the cliff. They're trying to get inside the car, but they're unable to. They're trying to pull the car back, but are unable to. The driver punches a hole through the window, and as the car is going over, he grabs Teddy's like, you know, shirt or jacket or whatever. And he goes off the cliff. Now, this is kind of a callback to when Ben Willis went over in the water and he grabbed Helen's like crown. And this causes Barry in the first movie to go in the water and go get it and realize the dude is still alive. Why did he grab Teddy's shirt if it wasn't going to lead up to nothing? It's literally just a callback from the first movie. This literally doesn't lead to nothing. They're not trying to like blackmail Teddy by like, you know, like a year later having his jacket reappear like in his room or some other place. It's literally just a callback to the first, and it makes absolutely no sense because the writing is just that bad. So they actually do the smart thing, unlike the people of the first movie. Teddy calls the paramedics and he's all like, they're on their way. They want us to go to the police station and make a report. So Danica, who's driving and everything, she makes them assume they're about to go to the police station, but instead she goes home. They're like, yo, we need to like confess what we did. And it is basically a very small conversation about why they can't do it. And they don't really go into extreme detail as to why they can't go to the police. It's just a very kind of like calm, nonchalant, very small conversation, which is very, very lame. In the first movie, it was a huge blowout of a conversation. It was them all panicking and everything, them worried they're gonna go to jail. And Barry was the instigator talking about, yo, look, we can't go to the police because, like, even though I was not driving, it's my car, I'm drunk, they're gonna blame it on me. Ray is poor and can't bail himself out of jail because he was the one actually driving, but he was sober. Julie's not going to be able to get into college and going to lose her scholarship. And, you know, you have Helen, who's like the poster girl of like town, and it's going to ruin her reputation. And so it was like a huge argument going back and forth, as loud as possible with all the characters, and Barry threatening Julie and everything, and them all making like a pact. It was an intense conversation, and why couldn't this movie replicate that? So, of course, 1 year passes by and a lot has changed, especially with that of like Danica and Teddy. They have now broken up and she is now with a white guy. And when I saw this, the first thing I thought to myself, why? Why would you write that for? Like, why would you do that? And the reason for that is because you got to understand interracial dating with black and white people. If you're not familiar with it, then you just don't know. Now, as you might suspect, both races, okay, here's the thing. There's been interracial dating with black and white people for many, many centuries, decades, whatever. For the most part now, they get along, but even now, both races don't particularly like when one is with the other. It has to do with a couple of things, mostly just racism and stuff like that. When it comes to white people, the majority of them don't like it because of just racism and stuff. But what people don't know is that the majority of black folks don't like it either because of racial issues too, racism. Because here's the thing that most people don't know. A lot of black women don't like white women, period. They just don't like them because of what's been going on with them throughout the centuries and stuff. But a lot of black women hate seeing a black man with a white woman. They feel like the black man is trying to erase them. They feel like they're not good enough for the black man and that he just wants like a white woman. And that he goes for white and all this other stuff and pretends to be white. And so like they get really furious about that and stuff. A lot of them do. Because I remember I was on Threads or Twitter, and this was back during the Jonathan Majors thing, when that whole assault thing with that white woman. And so one black woman said online, this is why she tells her young son, never get with a white woman because they will either try to get you arrested or they will try to kill you. This has been something speculated with black and white people and black interracial dating for many years. A lot of it is BS, but some of it is, it's not necessarily true, but it does kind of happen and stuff like that. But then there are just women who just don't like men and try to get them harmed anyway. However, when it comes to black men, they don't really care if a black woman is with a white guy. They only care when it has to do with mostly politics and stuff. Because they feel, because most of the time when a black woman gets with a white man, also it has to do with them hating black people. Because the majority when black women get with white men, most of them hate their own race and everything. And the other ones tend to follow whatever the white guy's politics is. And so black men feel like that they are selling out, similar to that of Snoop Dogg or Lil Wayne or something like that, or 50 Cent, you know what I'm saying? So there's always been this like ripple between like both races and why they don't like seeing each other with the other person and stuff. So I do fear when people see that, oh, she passed up the black dude for a white dude, that means she no longer likes black people and went back to her own race. There are going to be some people thrilled about that and some people angry about that. And I'm just like, why did they have to write it like that? Why couldn't they write her with another black guy or another person of color? Then they wouldn't have gotten so mad. But the fact that she went from black, didn't like it, and went back to white, then, there's gonna be some people who are gonna like feel a funny way about that. Because in society now, I have been seeing that a lot more white women have went back to white men and that they no longer be with black men. Most of the time it's because a lot of these white women went for the ghetto thuggish black man and everything. And because of that experience, they just realized, you know what, maybe they're all like that. And let me go back to my own race. And so, like, why would they write this for? Like, why would they write this for? I just wish to God they would have had her with another black dude or another person of color or just be single. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, she dumped him for like somebody else, and he's kind of like living in a boat, not wanting to be around nobody, and feeling kind of like guilty of what happened like the year prior and stuff, because he knows it was like, his fault. And so, like, at the engagement party, Danica gets a note saying, I know what you did last summer. And so this now makes her the Julie James of like the movie, because things start to revolve around her and she's getting way more screen time. If only her acting was better. See, here's the thing with these group of friends and everything. Their acting is not particularly good in this movie, the leads and everything. A lot of them haven't had that many acting credits. It shows their acting is off here and there. The only real good one is Sarah Pigeon. Hers is good for the first half of the movie, but then it gets bad at the very end of the movie and stuff, which I'm very disappointed in, because she's a phenomenal dramatic actress. Go watch The Wilds. I reviewed both seasons of that show. Go watch the actual show. You will see how good she is at playing the dramatic character. I am very shocked and surprised she's not the lead of this movie. I'm surprised she's not the Julie James of this movie and stuff. She really should have been. But everybody else, their acting is like off. Not only is it off, but none of them have chemistry with each other. I find it hard to believe they're actually friends and everything. I find it hard to believe that the two couples in like the movie are actually dating each other. They have no chemistry whatsoever. But anyway, she's like our new Julie James type character, and things revolve around her. So they are like, oh crap, somebody saw us from like last year. What are we gonna do? And blah, 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 blah. So of course they start like to investigate and stuff like that. And Milo goes to pick up Ava and stuff, and she has a person who she met at college. Some very, very annoying girl named like Tyler or something like that. Tyler is the one who has a murder podcast, and she's so obsessed with like the town of like Southport that like she, and she's just like, oh my God, like, this is what happened 30 years ago and blah, 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 and all this other crap. And she's obsessed with Helen Shivers, even has a Helen Shivers shirt that Sarah Michelle Gellar just happened to wear in a picture recently and stuff. So she's a very cringe type character. Her and Ava, they go to where Helen used to like live and work at and stuff. Well, that place where she worked at, where Ben Willis killed her sister and chased her all around the store. They tried to replicate the way the building looks, but it does look different. All of a sudden, Ben Willis shows up and like, chases after them. You see Ava fight not Ben Willis, but the new I say Ben Willis. You'll see Ben Willis has no respect, man. He doesn't even have no merch. NECA, come on now. But anyway, the new fisherman and everything. He, like, you know, chases after them. Ava slashes him across the chest. And so he's going after Tyler and stuff. And he eventually kills Tyler. But before he kills Tyler, she managed to take his hat off and look at him. And she was shocked and surprised, like, oh my God, it's you. And then he kills her. Now, you have to remember, Tyler is not from Southport. She doesn't know nobody there. She only knows Ava from college. So that could only mean the killer could be one or like 3 people and stuff. One of the survivors from, like, you know, the first 2 movies, or somehow Ben Willis just never died. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, she's like now dead. And I forgot to mention, she's the second murder. The first murder is the one from the trailer. It's where you have Danica taking like a bath and being very Gen Z and everything with the dialogue, and her new fiance gets, like, you know, shot with a harpoon gun and gets dragged on the floor, then shot again. Now, people in this movie make some of the dumbest decisions ever. When the dude gets stabbed in the shoulder area the first time and dragged, he gets the hook off him. And instead of running upstairs or trying to call the police, he's looking out the window because everything's pitch black outside, and he's creeping towards the window and gets shot for a second time. Why? He's completely fine with a shoulder wound. He could have easily ran, grabbed a weapon, grabbed his phone, ran to go see if Danica's okay. But no, he creeps towards the window where he can't see outside because everything's pitch black. And it's just kind of like, this is the dumbest decision I've ever seen made in a slasher movie, but it gets dumber after this. But yeah, I forgot to mention that he was the first one to die, which also made me think to solidify Danica as like the main like character of the movie. So at some point, everybody's like investigating this and that, and they're trying to figure out, like, you know, what the heck is going on. At some point, Ray shows up and is all like, this has happened before, and, you know, y'all need to do something about this, and blah blah blah. And so, like, it turns out that Stevie's boss is Ray. He has his own bar. And at some point in time, you have Ava go to find Julie James because she found out through, like, Taylor's podcast that Julie and them survived. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that Tyler knows that Julie and her friends from 30 years ago ran over Ben Willis, got away with it, and then he came back to kill them and everything twice. And I'm all like, hold up. Now, the whole world knows that because Julie, Ray, and Karla from the second movie, they kept all this a secret, and they've been keeping it a secret since the first movie and everything. They literally got away with hitting a guy with a car. And then, you know, and every time the police ask, do you know why this man keeps coming after y'all? They're all like, nope. And because they literally got away with a hit and run and everything. And so they promised at the first movie, and especially at the end of the second, they was going to keep this a secret for life. Now, all of a sudden, in this requel, somebody spilt the beans about what they did, and none of them are in jail and everything. Ray and Julie literally should be in jail right now. Now, technically, for a hit and run, not so much for the whole killing Ben Willis and killing his son in the second movie, because let's not forget, both him and his son are murderers and everything. But, you know, they have no kind of like punishment for that. But the fact that everybody now knows is weird and everything. And so she tracks down Julie at the college Julie is teaching at. And somehow she just randomly finds Julie as Julie is like leaving her classroom and walking down like the hall outside and everything. I mean, it's kind of odd that you can go to like a college campus that you don't belong to, that's in another town, and that's 30 minutes away, and they'll tell you exactly what room the teacher is teaching at, so you can like find this person and stuff. But anyways, so she's talking to Julie, and Julie really just thinks, oh, you're just making stuff up, until she tells her, like, no, there's a fisherman after me and my friends, and blah, 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 blah. And so Julie tells her, this has happened to me before and my friends and blah, 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 blah. And what you should do is find this person who's trying to kill you and kill them first, because for whatever reason, it's personal with them. And I'm thinking that is the worst advice to ever give somebody, because of the simple fact, it's not the same situation with Julie and her friends. They legit hit somebody with the car and covered it up. And while the dude was still alive, they just threw him in the water and left him to drown. But he never drowned. And that's when he came after them and everything. But technically, Ben Willis was always a bad person no matter what, because he has killed people in the past, it was revealed. These kids' situation is completely different and stuff. It was a legit accident and everything, other than Teddy being a fool in the street. And so, like, so for her to give the advice, go after them first and kill them first before they give you, is stupid. And when Ava tells everybody, including Ray, that she went to go visit Julie, Ray is pissed and at Julie, and tells her legit when he goes to her place, you gave them some of the worst advice ever. Now, like I said before, they're broken up, divorced, and they hate each other. Reasons why, nobody knows. And so, like, when he gets on to her talking about you gave them like the worst advice possible and stuff like that, he goes to her place, and just like always, Julie has like security cameras and that stuff like that, right? But the thing that's weird is that Julie has no gun. Why? After what she's been through, you would assume she would have had a gun like Sidney Prescott. Not only that, but when she was creeped out that somebody was at her front door, she goes to them with scissors and everything. Not even a knife, which shows the stupidity now of Julie. Julie used to be a smart character and everything. Why they made her this dumb, I have no idea. And so, like, the teens are investigating once again more and more, and they wanted to see who the car belonged to that went off the embankment. So they went to like the impound lot and stuff like that to find out who. And the killer is back, and he kills the impound guy and stuff. I've noticed so far the 3 people that have died are just mostly random characters that had absolutely nothing to do with like the accident. Now, technically, Max from the first movie was the first to die, but that's only because Ben Willis feared that Max might have saw something and spoiled his revenge. Here is just randomly killing people that are slightly attached to the main cast, and some of them are not, like the impound guy. I forget who is the 4th person to die, but yeah, it's kind of weird. So anyway, of course, there's a chase sequence where they're getting chased, but mostly Danica, which is another stupid thing that happens. So anyway, as they're investigating all this stuff like this and going to creepy places, she's wearing high heels like an idiot and not shoes. So anyway, she takes her high heels off and she goes off by herself and goes into like a empty building and stuff. And here comes the killer. She runs and finds a landline phone, but it's not working, so she can call the police. Where's her cell phone at? There's no mention of her cell phone. There's no mention of her battery dying. There's nothing. You'd think she would have her cell phone, but all of a sudden, now she doesn't. Anyways, at some point, like while doing the investigation, Danica and I think it's Teddy, because they're starting to reminisce now and starting to like, be friends again. They go to like a grave site to find the dude that died. Now they know who it is. It's a guy named Sam like Cooper or something like that. He's like some kind of like pastor or preacher or something like that at this church. I don't know if he's in a relationship with the actual pastor or not. They kind of seem like a gay couple, and so I'm not really 100% sure. But like she goes to like the grave site, they find his grave, but she also finds Helen Shivers, and she's like, oh my god, she was a croaker queen like me. Because remember, Helen was in a beauty pageant, the croaker queen and everything. And so like, okay, that's a nice little tidbit and a callback from the first movie, because we never get to see Danica do any of this stuff, like beauty pageant type stuff. And so like, what is it? Oh, by the way, there's another callback from like the first movie and also that of the TV show, where in the first movie, Helen and Julie had a conversation. It's all like, I miss you. We used to be best friends. We used to do everything together. And she's all like, yeah, and what did Julie say? Yeah, we were a lot of things and more, something like that. And that's always made people speculate that those two had like a lesbian relationship on the down low and everything. The director said that's never the case, and he doesn't understand why people assume that. But for many years, people have always assumed Helen and Julie were always more than just friends and stuff. Here in this movie, they tried to replicate that, but try to be a bit more LGBT bait-ish and everything by having these two lay in bed, looking each other eyes with Google eyes, and just look like they're falling in love with each other. This won't be the first time they'll do this. They'll do it again somewhere towards the end, making you really, really assume that they're really in love with each other. And when they talk, they even say, I love you and everything. And I'm just kind of like, are they, aren't they? This is the lamest callback from like the first movie. Just go there and don't tease people. Also a callback from the television show, because the two main girls were like in love with each other and stuff. Well, at least one was in love with the other, and the other one just went along with it for whatever reason and stuff. So at some point in time, you have Teddy, and he's at like a gym or a sauna or something like that, right? A callback to the whole Barry thing, but also a callback to Julie when she was in the shower. And he gets a message written on like, you know, the window and stuff like that. And it doesn't even say, I know what you did last summer. It just says something completely different, which is stupid and lame. At some point in time, he heads back home, and now the killer's ready to kill him. He gets stabbed a couple of times, or hooked, I should say. But here's the odd thing. They try to give him his black hero moment because they wrote him to be a stupid black jock and everything, because he's the only black person in the movie, so he's the stupid jock. They try to give him a hero moment by showing, hey, you know we kind of screwed up, but here's your black empowerment moment by having him fight like the killer off, right? And he's fighting this dude MMA style, even though he's been hooked so many times and should be passed out on the floor. But he's whooping the killer's behind. And so he whoops the killer behind and spits blood in the killer's face, giving him his little hero empowerment moment. But then in the next scene, we see him struggling to walk to the point where he's kind of like crawling, and he's trying to get his dad's help because he's bleeding out and he's dying. Now, what happened to before when he was whooping this dude behind and walking around, strutting around like he's all that? Well, of course, he's dying. His dad shows up. His dad is horrified and his dad dies. And I'm just kind of like, that fight scene was so unbelievable. It was stupid and cringe. Like, you already screwed up by making the only black dude in the movie get dumped and replaced by a white dude. Then you messed up even more by having him be an idiot throughout the entire movie. And now you're trying to give him his empowerment moment in a very unrealistic fight. Anyways. So Ava's horny and wants to bang Milo. And as they're doing, making out and everything, she's like, choke me. And he's all like, I'm gonna need a minute or an hour or something like that. No, he said he needs a minute because he's never done that to somebody in the bedroom. I don't understand the fixation about that, why people like that. I really don't. But it's kind of like, just tell her you're not into that and bang her. Because sometimes in life, a guy only has a minute to bang somebody. So he's in the car and he's just like, oh my God, man, like what I'm going to do, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, why write this dude to be lame? Well, of course, he died. And I'm just like, God, they're like, so I'm like, oh, wait, so now all the men are like dead in the movie and stuff, the main cast members and stuff. I'm just like, there are no guys left and everything. And it's just kind of like, not only that, but both guys are really lame and everything. And I'm just like, in every movie, especially a slasher movie, there needs to be two strong leads. There need to be a strong female lead and a strong male lead. But in most modern day movies and television shows, it's not like that no more. It's like, you know what I'm saying? And they do this on purpose and stuff. And this is one of the things that is backfiring on Hollywood when they keep writing all these weak, sorry men and everything. But anyways, at some point in time, I forget what happens because this movie sucks. But you got the 3 female leads back. Now, I've said before, the 5 friend thing is just too big. Because you always have that one friend that's off doing their own thing and is barely there helping out. But anyways, the 2 girls, Ava and what's their name was Danica, they go to the police station. And like always, the police are incompetent. And they lock the girls in like the room for whatever reason, right? And so like all of a sudden, Danica is having a dream. And for some reason, she's having a dream about Helen Shivers. And I don't know why, because all throughout this movie, she's never thought about her until she saw her grave that one time. Now, if Tyler, or Taylor, whatever that girl name is, was to have this dream, then and then only would this hallucination make sense. But here, this hallucination does not make sense. So why add this to the movie for like the Danica character? It literally makes no freaking sense. I do not trust these writers, directors no more for this movie. I just don't. This was just stupid. And so like Helen is acting all edgy and rude and sassy and not talking like the way she would talk in like the first movie. And that's because Danica has no idea how she would talk. But hallucination Helen's all like, your boyfriend's dead and blah 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 and all this other crap. And so like, you know, it just don't make no sense. And then she turns into kind of like this zombie demon thing, and it's just kind of like, okay. And so at some point in time towards the end of the movie, this is when we get like, you know, some of the dead body reveals and stuff like that, and everybody's freaking out because they're displayed for the whole town people to see. And so Ray tells like, you know, Stevie and the girls, you know, you need to get as far away from here as possible before the killer gets you and stuff like that. Because Ray is very protective of Stevie. He told her that, I promise your dad and everything, I'll take care of you and everything, because she lost like her parents and stuff like that. And so they go to find Milo's car, and they find Milo's dead body in the car. So they freak out, and then all of a sudden they hop on like a big cruise boat and everything. Well, not really so much a cruise boat, but like a fancy boat, you know what I'm saying? That like a rich person will own, like a private little boat. And all of a sudden you realize, since when can Stevie drive like a boat? But I guess Ray taught her and stuff like that, since they're very close. So you have like a moment with Danica and Ava, they're talking and everything, and then all of a sudden the boat stops and the anchor drops. And when that happens, they're all like, why did the boat stop? So then you start to piece some things together, and it's kind of like, okay, I get it now. And all of a sudden, here comes the killer in the slicker, but wearing sneakers for the first time instead of the boots that they've been wearing all throughout the movie. And they take off the hat and bam, it's Stevie. And it's like, Stevie's the killer, but why? And all of a sudden. And so, look, I said this before, Sarah Pigeon was the best actress out of the new cast of members in this movie. But she was good in the beginning of the movie, but the moment she does the killer reveal, her acting is very off. She has a lot of cringe dialogue talking about like, telling the girls, don't interrupt me as I'm giving my monologue. So a woman decides to finally have some independence and a moment to shine, and you try to rob that from her. And it's all like, what the heck kind of dialogue is that? You don't hear people like that talk in real life. You only hear them talk like that in movies, especially recent movies and stuff. Although you did hear it with Sarah Michelle Gellar movie in Cruel Intentions back in the day. So she reveals why she's the killer. It has to do with the guy who got into the car accident and died. Sam was like a pastor or preacher who helped Stevie out 2 years prior because she had an addiction to like drugs or something like that, and he helped her during rehab. He was the only person for her because I guess she like lost her parents and she got on drugs, and he helped her out. And so because of that, like, she really cares for him in a really good friend kind of way. And so she had no idea it was him who died at first because he took Judith's car, and she's a woman who works at like the church. And so like he took her car, he got into that accident and died, and then she realized that later. There was no lead up to this whatsoever. There was no hint to this whatsoever because her character is mostly MIA for the most of the movie and stuff. But even so, her reason for wanting to kill her friends was stupid because of this, because of a guy she's not even related to or not even dating and stuff. So then, of course, you know, it's Stevie and it's Danica. They're fighting with the hook, and all of a sudden Danica can fight now. And then we see Ray driving on like a boat heading towards them. And all I could think of was, how the heck does he even know where they're at? They have a huge head start on him and everything. But all of a sudden he shows up, and he shows up with a gun, and he's telling Stevie, put the hook down. You know, you're better than this, and it's not worth it, and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And then he shoots her. And when he shoots her, it appears that he shoots her in the head. Now, you never see blood, but you see some dust come from her forehead, and she falls over very quickly. Either it's dust from like the impact of the bullet, or it's just the light reflecting off her shiny hair. Either way, she falls in the water, but Danica's already in the water because Danica got hooked and thrown into the water. And so Ava is the only one left alive. So Ava goes back to Ray's bar because she's sad and she's upset and this and that. But right before, she left a message on Julie's answer machine telling her that, like, you know, Stevie was the killer and Ray shot her, and, you know, Danica went over the water and stuff like that. Julie all of a sudden looks very worried and very scared and runs to her laptop. And all of a sudden, she like looks at a picture of Stevie, and then she runs out. We don't know exactly what the heck is going on, but because of this whole twist ending reveal, people kept spoiling online, but never saying what exactly it was at first, and all this other stuff, and Ray talking about he's gonna protect Stevie at all costs. I pieced it together and realized Ray was her accomplice and everything. And then the cops, when they're investigating, they see a picture of Sam, the person who died a year prior, and Stevie standing near him and everything, realizing that Stevie must be the killer. And so, like, you know, this happened before she revealed herself to be the killer. But anyway, yes, Ray is the freaking killer and everything of this movie, and Stevie was his, like, accomplice. I can't believe they did this crap. First of all, one thing don't make no sense. I told you before, the killer left a message on the sauna like window for Teddy. Then a scene later, we see both Stevie and Ray talking outside. How the heck did they get from one point to another very quickly, unless they like how? Because they're both in the same scene together. So this makes me wonder if he was supposed to be the killer all along, and if she was supposed to be the accomplice, or like what? You know what I'm saying? It would have made more sense for Teddy to be like the killer who's dealing with the grief, because a simple fact, he like, um is the one who caused the accident. So maybe he snapped and decided to kill people, which they did try to like pin it on him at one point, but it didn't fly. Now the question is, if she's so pissed off about what happened, why didn't she just straight up kill her friends? Why was she killing random other people and stuff before she started killing her friends and stuff? So that doesn't make no sense either. But the whole Ray being the main villain of the movie is very heartbreaking and disappointing, because of the simple fact of what this man went through in the first two movies and stuff. In the first movie, he's the poor boy and everything. And wait, before I get into that, first, when Julie confronts him because he's now fighting with Ava, because Ava like realized who Ray is because he took off his jacket and he has, I guess, like a cut mark on his body from where she cut him earlier in the movie. So like, he hooks her at one point and she's collapsing in Julie's arms, and Julie's all like, "So you're the killer. You helped Stevie out." And so his explanation was really stupid. His explanation was her friend screwed over Stevie's life. Because Stevie said, her friends abandoned her when she relapsed on drugs, and Sam was the only person for her. So Ray's all like, she came to me and everything was hurt. And I told her the best way to heal is to get revenge and go on a murder spree. That don't make no sense. But that don't make no sense. But he said his reasons for doing this is because the people of Southport erased what happened to them a long time ago. Nobody brings it up. Nobody wants to remember what those kids went through with the whole Ben Willis thing. And so that's his whole reason for it. It's because erasure. They erased the events of what happened. And like, nobody wants to remember what they went through, the trauma, the pain, and all this other stuff. And I'm just kind of like, what the heck is this dude even talking about? I mean, him and his friends literally got away with a hit and run. They literally got away with trying to drown a man. They got away with cutting off his hand and throwing him in the water, and they got away with killing both him and his son in the second movie. You will want somebody to forget that. You know what I'm saying? Why would you want people to remember it like you're some kind of like town hero and everything? And this is what I was talking about before. They made him into a toxic white male because this is an allegory for that. See, the thing about toxic white males that have been popping up very recently, like online and everything, especially YouTube and stuff and Twitter, is that they feel like they are being erased. The whole like woke Hollywood type thing, when they started adding diverse characters, women, people of color, people of the LGBT, they feel like it's taken away from the straight white male lead that used to dominate Hollywood for many, many decades. They literally say they feel like they're getting erased. And every time you see a white guy on television, he's either really stupid, really dorky, or like toxic or whatever. And everybody else is very confident and smart and stuff like that. And so like, it's literally when he said like, we're being erased, I knew exactly what the heck he was talking about, which once again, this is a callback to Scream 5, that requel, to where like the killer was a toxic white male and everything on the internet. Oh my freaking God. But anyway, back to why this is disappointing for Ray to turn this way. Ray was always a nice guy, like in the first two movies. But the thing is, he was a poor guy who, like, oh wait, I also forgot. When he also said they were erasing stuff, he said that they redone the entire town. It's no longer what it used to look like. Because now it's all rich and fancy with all these like nice buildings and everything. And the place used to be very dingy back in the day. But the thing is like this, Ray was poor and he could not leave his town and go to college like his friends because he was too poor. But he did want to get out, he just didn't have the means. And in the second movie, he still didn't have the means to get out, but Julie kept trying to get him to get out, but he didn't want to because he's all like, that's his town and stuff like that. I don't get it. Okay, I don't get it. The dude struggled. The struggle was real with this guy. Why would he want it to go back to his poor, struggling self? You know what I'm saying? Like, that don't make no sense. And that's because he's stuck in the past, like all these toxic white boys and everything. But anyway, back to why this is disappointing. He was the poor boy. He could not leave town like his friends because they had more money than him. He wasn't that smart to get into college and everything. And so, like, and he was also kind of a bit of a wimp in the first movie. I said it before. Barry choked his, wrapped his hands around her throat and forced her to help cover up the hit and run. He just stood there. This is what also caused them to break up. He wanted to get back with her, but she didn't want nothing to do with him in the first movie. But then at the end of the movie, he literally became a hero. He's the guy who you was not expecting to be the Prince Charming. You'd think because of the way Barry looks, he would be the Prince Charming and stuff. And so, like in the second movie, he literally becomes that Prince Charming. He is the hero that will go through any means to save Julie. He got ran off the road. He was in the hospital. He left the hospital. He hopped on a bus to get to like the shipping docks and everything to sail out to the island that Julie was at because the planes were down and he couldn't necessarily go on the plane because they're gonna look for the guy who escaped the hospital. Not only that, but he went to the pawn shop, pawned Julie's engagement ring, bought a gun to take out Ben Willis and everything. And then he fought Will Benson in the movie and stuff like that. And so he literally had his hero moment and everything to where he is Prince Charming. And then him and Julie was so in love, they got married and everything. For him to turn out like this is like character assassination. And this is what happens with every soft reboot. It happened with Luke Skywalker and everything. And it's happened with other characters. I just can't think of them right now. And so people are generally pissed off about this, and so am I and everything. They literally ruined this dude's character. Not only that, but him and Julie, like I said, divorced, broke up, and they hate each other. But not only that, but you really see his hate for her and everything because of the things he says about her and stuff and the way he looks. There was always something off with him in this movie with the way how he acts like he hates Julie. Why on earth would they do this crap? So anyways, you have that of Danica and you have that of Ava in the hospital recovering. How? Because Danica just washed up on shore and everything. After getting hooked and thrown over, she basically had a Ben Willis survival moment. So the two girls reminiscing and acting like they're madly in love with each other. Once again, to call back to the first movie and the television show. And then all of a sudden, in some goofy dialogue, Ava's all like, oh, guess what? Stevie is still alive. And they're all like, oh, well, I guess we have to kill her now. And I'm just kind of like, how did Stevie survive that? She got shot. It looked like she got shot in the head. But then Ava did ask Ray, why did you kill your partner? And he literally tells her, I didn't. So that makes you think maybe he shot away from her and she just fell over, or maybe she did get hit by a bullet. Who knows? We don't get to see her recover or nothing like that. And they literally spoiled her return. Then in the post-credit scene, which I didn't even know this happened because I stormed out the movie theater after the movie ended, Karla's back, Brandy from the second movie, you know, the other black character that they did not want to show in this movie and stuff. And so fans have been wanting Brandy to come back for the longest time, but it was speculated she might not even be in the movie, but she showed up in a cameo. A cameo, because what, they didn't want another black person in the movie? They didn't want 2 Asian people in the movie? They didn't want a Latino in the movie? They didn't want 2 black people in the movie? Anyways, Karla comes back and tells Julie, I got a note, talking about it's not over yet, and there's a picture of them circled in red, indicating that it's going to be another movie. But, however, this doesn't make sense. Who the heck is after them? And why did they send it to Karla? Karla has done nothing wrong other than keeping Ray and keeping Julie's secret at the end of the second movie. And when she kept that secret, she looked like she was disturbed by that, which made me think if they was going to make a third movie, they might make Karla like a killer or something like that, because she's having to cover up their secret, or maybe she just feels guilty or whatever. But of course, we all know that the third movie is direct to DVD with a completely different cast and a zombie twist to it and everything. So who the heck is this person after them, or more importantly, after Karla? Did Karla do something off screen? But why did they circle both Julie and Karla? It makes you think, okay, this has to do with something in the second movie. Is somebody gonna avenge Ben Willis and Will Benson's death? Who? Ben Willis had 2 kids. They both died. He had a wife who he killed, but we never saw her on screen ever. So maybe the wife did not die and everything. Maybe the wife, the mother of Will, is pissed that Will is dead and wants revenge. I mean, it would have to tie into the second movie, I'm assuming. Or maybe it's one of the relatives of one of the people on the island hotel that got killed in the second movie. Who knows? Also, how is this now supposed to tie in to that of Stevie, Danica, and Ava? Their story is completely separate from Karla and Julie's story and everything. So if they have a sequel, is Julie and Karla gonna interact with Danica and Ava, and then all of a sudden Stevie shows up to try to kill them? It's like they're trying to set up 2 sequels and everything. Please, don't ever write anything again for a big blockbuster movie. Please. Okay, you've shown how much y'all are amateurs and everything. Stick to the smaller stuff that y'all have been doing and stay the heck away from this franchise. Because if there is a sequel, I'm not watching, because this movie was abysmal, and I don't want to see a sequel with none of these characters now. This 4th movie should have been the 3rd movie, and this movie should have centered around Julie James, Karla, and that of Ray, to finally give them the trilogy that they needed from the first 2 installments, because that 3rd movie was abysmal and everything. But no, they wanted to pull a Scream 5 and a Halloween and do a requel thing. They wanted to pass the torch to a bunch of newer, younger characters and everything. And I did not want that. I wanted to continue the story from these legacy characters from back in the day and everything. Julie James, you know, is one of my favorite final girls and everything. She's smart. Like, you know, she's has like a moral sense of this moral sense to her. Now, back in the day, people always felt like they didn't like Julie James and that they actually wanted Helen to survive and be the final girl. But why exactly? They say she's more interesting. Well, Helen is like the dumb blonde. She's all about her looks and all this and that. She got her hair chopped off by the killer. Her boyfriend died by the killer. Nobody would believe her. There was an excellent chase sequence between her and the killer. And yeah, people wanted her to survive and everything. I did too. But like, I don't think she could have been a final girl if she would have fought off the killer and actually survived. And she would have made a good final girl, but she's not really smart. She's more of a 1980s final girl and everything. But I always liked the idea of Julie, like, surviving and this and that. But I never had a problem with Julie James and stuff. And I do like how in the second movie, Julie got a heck of a lot tougher and everything. She's still dealing with the grief of what happened in the first movie. It's causing her to have PTSD, hallucinations, and dreams, and this and that. And like, she's trying to live her life and forget, but then, oh, here comes the killer again, So she goes into combat mode and everything. I like that about her. She should have had her final outing and everything, but no, she had to show up for basically a supporting cameo and pass the baton to somebody else. Two characters, in my opinion, who don't deserve it. And you see they tried to pull the little switcheroo thing with the whole Danica thing. Danica is the Helen of the movie, blonde and everything like that. And because people felt like Helen should have been the final girl, they started to make Danica into the main character. But once she went overboard and we was left with Ava, who's like the Julie character, then y'all like, oh, okay, you pulled that switcheroo and everything. But it just didn't come off really good because they kept switcherooing way too many times and stuff. You don't really know who the real main girl of this movie is and who the real main final girl is and who exactly is the best friend. And also back again, well, old school Hollywood, if Danica is the main character who's white, then her best friend, oh, look at that, is an Asian girl and everything. This movie sucked. I really wish I never watched it. Like, I really wish I never did. It's a million times better than the third movie, but it's only slightly better than that of the television show. If the television show was to have a slasher in it and fix the Margot character so she doesn't talk the way she does and everything, fix the Dylan character and take out that stupid cult thing, then it would have been a heck of a lot better. But like, you can really tell that this movie tried to redo the television show and fix the mistakes of the television show, but while making the same mistakes as the television show and making it lesser of like what the television show was. At least the television show had some really good drama. You got a sense as to why the one twin wanted to kill her other twin. You got a sense as to why. You had some red herrings in that of Dylan, who was like obsessed with like the main character and maybe he could have done it. You get the feeling that it could have also been the other girl in the show because she liked Dylan, but Dylan didn't like her and liked the main girl. And so she could possibly be like a person doing all this. Then there's Margot, who's obsessed with the main girl. And she's the actual killer-ish because she hired somebody to do the killing because she can't do it herself because of her body frame and everything. And so you get why she's like a jilted lover type thing who's like obsessed with like this one person. But and so the drama was pretty okay in the television show. It's just things like the cult and some of the other characters just didn't make no sense. But in this movie, it's just like, you don't get no sense of that. You don't get no sense that they're friends. You don't get much backstory into their characters or character development. In the first movie, you had a lot of character development. Also, not only that, but in the first movie, scenes felt way scarier than this movie. Like I said before, the first movie's kind of boring because it's dialogue heavy, but when it sets up the killer scenes, you feel scared. It's the music, it's the way the camera moves. You know, it's just all kinds of different little things. Like when Barry got ran over by the car and got in an accident and the killer starts creeping up to him and everything, you feel scared. The whole Max dying, you feel creeped out by that. When, like, you know, they go to like Anne H's like character's house, you feel creeped out by that old hick redneck type lady and everything. The scene where it's like, you know, Julie and Helen are talking in the car, you feel that. You get creeped out because you know somebody's watching Helen when she's in her room going to sleep and she wakes up and her hair is cut off. You feel scared just by Ben Willis walking around chasing after Helen. She's running at top speed and he's just walking, creeping, and you feel scared because it's eerie and everything. It's the music also that helps build the scene. This movie did not have any of this. This movie was literally made by amateurs and everything. Like, and I hate saying that because you want them to succeed and everything, because I want more females to be making movies in Hollywood and this and that. But this is now the problem with trying to prove yourself. Diverse people are having to prove themselves in Hollywood because there are too many like white people on YouTube and stuff saying that the diversity is ruining movies and television shows. So then when you get a movie like this that is just horrible and everything, and it's badly written and badly directed, of course now they're gonna feel like they're justified in complaining and everything. Why give them that win just so Hollywood can go back to the way it used to be? It's like they don't want to succeed or something like that, you know? Like, you should have sat your behind down and really hit like a banger of the movie. Now, yes, the writer's strike did play effect in this movie because they had to stop writing and stuff. But once they was able to start writing again, then you fix the freaking movie. You do reshoots. You make sure your lead stars are good actors and everything. You make sure that they can carry a movie, and if they can't, you do retake after retake. Like when they recast Camila Mendes. Now Camila Mendes is not no great actress. That's the girl from Riverdale. But they recast somebody who looks similar to her. The new girl can't act. The other main girl can't act. The two lead males can't act either. You only had one new character who can act, but she could only act for half of the movie. Once Sarah Pigeon was revealed to be the killer, it's like her acting just faded away after that. She tried too hard to have that killer reveal and the quirky stuff she was saying, but it didn't come off as genuine. She's more genuine when it's like a traumatic thing. When she revealed why she was one of the killers, which by the way, both killers have a different body type. So I don't understand how she was one of the killers. But anyway, when she revealed why she did what she did, this should have been a big dramatic moment, or like at least cry or something like that. But she didn't do none of that, because another thing about modern Hollywood is they don't want to see a vulnerable woman and everything. They don't want to show a woman crying for no kind of reason. They want them to have this strong empowerment all throughout like the movie. And she even mentioned something like that, like, you trying to take away my female empowerment moment or something like that, now that I've gained a little independence and stuff like that. She should have, when I saw her do the killer reveal, it was similar to Brenda in Urban Legends. The difference is Brenda gave a performance. She was quirky, she was scary, and she was vulnerable. She almost cried because she was about to start weeping as to why avenging her boyfriend meant so much to her. And she acted hysterical because she was literally about to cry. Here, there's no such thing. And they didn't allow her to act. And because of that, her acting dimmed down a bit. Like I said before, in the rest of the movie, it was good. But then once she became the killer reveal, her acting went away. You need to hit a freaking banger to prove you can make it in Hollywood, because both the writer and the director don't have that many like Hollywood credits to their name. And the main one of the writers, the storyboard person, she's mostly done like short story type things, and I've never seen no projects with either of them and stuff. If you're gonna have diversity and try to change the landscape, make sure you get somebody who's freaking competent in everything. And make sure if it's not right, you keep at it. Look at Kevin Williamson. Kevin Williamson is a openly gay man. He wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer, and studios did not like that. He went back to the drawing board with Scream and improved his script. Once Scream was a banger, they greenlit his I Know What You Did Last Summer, and he probably tweaked it here and there, but he also had to keep it similar to the source material of the book. He just added a slasher to it. See, he realized his mistake and he corrected it to make sure he had a banger of a movie and stuff. Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.